The alien market was loud, dirty, and cruel. 1,000 voices shouted. Traders screamed numbers. Buyers pushed each other. The air was thick with the smell of sweat, old food, and fear. Rows of cages filled the wide street. Inside them were beings of many kinds. Some were strong, some were weak. Some already broken, all were for sale. But in the last corner, away from the big cages, sat one small figure. She was not in a cage. She was left on the cold ground. Her thin body was covered only in dust and shame. The traders had not even given her a cloth. Her hair was tangled, her eyes half closed. She looked too weak to stand. People passed by and laughed. "No one will buy that one," one alien snorted. "She is useless, nothing but trash. She cannot work. She cannot fight, she cannot please," another said. "Better to throw her away." The little alien girl heard their words. She did not cry. She had no tears left. Her hands rested on her knees, her head was bent low. She had learned long ago that tears brought no help, only more laughter every few minutes. A trader kicked some dirt at her, shouting, "See free to anyone! Take her if you want! No one cares." But still no one stepped forward. Buyers wanted strength, beauty, or skills. She was none of those, she was only shame. Suddenly, the market grew quiet for a moment. The heavy boots of a new visitor echoed on the stones. People turned to look. A human walked slowly through the market. Humans were rare in this sector. Many aliens did not like them. Some feared them, some mocked them. But all noticed when one appeared. Humans had a strange way of doing things. They often broke rules. They often shocked others. This human was tall, with a strong build and calm eyes. He walked past cages without stopping. His hands stayed at his sides. He did not join the shouting, he did not laugh. Instead, he looked carefully at each face. The traders tried to catch his attention. "Strong fighter here, only 200 credits. Beautiful worker, she can cook, she can clean, cheap price today." But the human did not answer. He kept walking, his eyes searching for something. Then he saw her, the little alien girl on the ground. Weak and silent, his steps slowed, his eyes narrowed. For a long moment he said nothing. The trader near her laughed. "This one? No, human, not for you, she is nothing. She will only eat your food and die, better to pick a real one." The human said nothing. He crouched down. His shadow fell over the girl. She slowly raised her head. Her eyes met his for just a second. Inside them was emptiness. The emptiness of someone who no longer believed in life. The crowd began to whisper, "What is he doing? Why is he looking at her? No one wants her, even for free." But the human stayed there watching her. He did not touch her. He did not insult her. He only looked as if searching inside her broken shell for something the crowd could not see. The girl lowered her head again, she thought. Another one come to laugh. She expected him to mock her, to call her worthless. But his silence was strange. It made her heart beat faster. The trader grew impatient. "Listen, human. This one is a mistake. She cannot even walk properly. Take someone else. Pay me well and I'll give you a strong one." Still the human stayed silent. Finally he stood up. His voice was low but clear. "How much?" The crowd froze. The trader blinked in shock. "What? You want this one? You must be joking." The human's eyes did not move. "How much?" The trader laughed loudly. "1 credit. Or nothing. She is garbage." Gasps spread through the market. The buyers could not believe it. A human wanted the unwanted one, and not just wanted. He was ready to pay. The human reached into his pocket. He placed a coin in the trader's hand. Then he took off his coat and gently placed it around the girl's shoulders. She stiffened, confused. She did not understand. Why cover her shame? Why give her warmth? The trader shook his head. "Mad human," he muttered. Mad and foolish, but the crowd was no longer laughing. They stared in silence as the human lifted the girl. She was light, like carrying a shadow. She did not resist. She only closed her eyes, waiting for whatever fate came next. The human walked out of the market, boots striking the stones. The noise of traders shouting returned behind him. But softer, uncertain people whispered, "Why him? Why her?" And the girl, wrapped in the coat of a stranger, thought the same. Why me? She had been left in the market of shame. Forgotten. Worthless. Unwanted. Yet one human had stopped. One human had chosen her. And that choice was about to change everything. The human walked away from the market with the girl in his arms. The sun was hot above. The streets were busy with voices and smells. But no one shouted now. Instead, people whispered and pointed. Some laughed, others shook their heads. Foolish human, one alien said. He paid for nothing. He must be crazy, another muttered. No one spends even a coin on trash. The girl heard every word. Her face pressed into his chest. She expected him to throw her down any moment, to leave her when he grew tired of the weight. She had seen it before. Kindness for 1 minute, then cruelty for the rest. Her small hands clutched the coat tighter. Her body trembled. The human kept walking, his face calm, his step steady. He did not answer the voices. He did not explain himself. He walked until the market was far behind, until the noise was only a memory. When he reached the edge of the town, he stopped beneath a broken wall. He set the girl down gently on a stone. She did not move. She thought maybe he wanted to test her. Maybe he wanted to watch her crawl. He pulled a small flask from his belt, opened it, and held it out to her. "Drink," he said. His voice was steady. Low, the girl blinked. Her lips were dry, her throat burned. But she did not reach for it, she thought. Maybe it is a trick. Maybe if I drink, he will laugh. The human placed the flask in her hands anyway. Her fingers shook as she held it. Slowly, she raised it to her mouth. The first drops touched her tongue. She gasped. Water, clean water. It slid down her throat like life itself. She drank too fast, coughing. Water spilled on her chin. But she drank until it was empty. The human did not stop her. He only watched quietly, his eyes unreadable. She lowered the flask, her eyes wet now, but not from pain, from confusion. "Why?" she whispered. Her voice was weak, broken. But the question escaped her lips before she could stop it. The human looked at her. For a moment he said nothing, then he simply answered, "Because you needed it." Her heart stumbled. The answer was too simple, too strange. She lowered her head again. She wanted to believe, but belief was dangerous. The human picked her up once more and began walking. Soon the town faded behind them. The path led into dry fields, stones crunching beneath his boots. The sky stretched wide. The girl kept silent, but inside her chest, fear and curiosity fought. After hours of walking, they reached a small station. An old transport waited. A rusted vehicle with cracked windows. The human placed her inside carefully. He sat beside her and the engine growled to life. The road stretched long and lonely. Dust rose around them. The girl kept glancing at him. Waiting, what did he want? Why had he taken her? Every slave she had ever known was taken for a reason. Labor, money, or worse, humans were no different, she thought. They too wanted something. Finally, she asked again. Her voice small. "What will you do with me?" The human looked at the horizon, his hands on the wheel. His words came slowly. "Not do. Take care." The girl froze. She did not understand. Take care? No one had ever used those words for her. In the market, she was told she was worthless. In the cages, she was told she was dirt. But now, a stranger said he would take care. Her stomach twisted. Could it be true? Or was this another cruel joke? Night fell by the time they reached his home. It was not large, only a simple house on a lonely hill. The lights glowed warm through the windows. The human carried her inside. The air smelled of food, wood, and something safe. He set her down on a soft chair. She sat stiff, not moving. Her eyes darted around. She thought, he will lock me soon. He will show his real face. Instead, he went to the kitchen. He returned with a bowl of soup. Steam rose from it. The smell made her stomach ache with hunger. He placed it in her hands. Eat, he said. Her fingers shook. She stared at the bowl, at him, at the bowl again, slowly. She took one sip. It was hot, rich. She swallowed quickly, then another, then another. Tears blurred her vision. Her body shook with each bite. She had forgotten what real food tasted like. The human sat across from her, quiet. He did not rush her. He did not take the bowl away. He only watched, as if making sure she was safe when she finished. She placed the empty bowl on her lap, her eyes heavy, her body weak. Sleep pulled at her. She tried to stay awake, afraid of what might happen if she closed her eyes. But the human stood. He brought a blanket and placed it gently over her shoulders. Rest, he said. Her heart pounded. She wanted to ask again, why me? Why help? But no sound came. Her eyes closed, and for the first time in her life, she fell asleep not from exhaustion, but from peace. Outside, the night wind moved through the fields. The house stood silent. Inside, the girl slept, and the human sat near the fire. His eyes deep in thought. He had not just bought her. He had chosen her, and tomorrow, the world would begin to change for both of them. The morning sun rose slowly over the hills. The small house glowed with its first light. Inside, the girl opened her eyes. For a moment, she forgot where she was. She expected to see stone walls, iron bars, or a trader's whip. But instead, she saw soft cloth, a blanket around her, and the sound of birds outside. She sat up quickly, fear returning. Had she dreamed it? Had someone tricked her? Her eyes searched the room. The human was there. Sitting near the door, he had not tied her. He had not locked her. He had simply slept in the chair. His head leaned back, his breathing slow. The girl's heart raced. This was her chance. She could run, slip into the fields before he woke. But her legs trembled when she stood. Her body was still weak. Hunger and shame had left deep marks. She took one step toward the door but stopped. Her eyes returned to him. His face was calm in sleep. She did not see cruelty there. She saw something else, something she could not name. She sat back down, confused. The human opened his eyes after a while. He did not seem surprised she was awake. He only said one word. Food. Then he brought bread and fruit. He placed it before her. She hesitated, then ate. Her stomach still begged, but he gave her enough. Not too little, not too much. He ate nothing, only watched. After breakfast. He stood. He picked up a bag and motioned to her. Come, she frowned. Where? Her voice was small. Home, he said simply. The girl followed. Though her steps were slow, the path stretched wide and empty. Only the sound of boots on dirt filled the air. She walked beside him at first, then behind, always afraid she might fall. Each step felt heavy, her body still weak. But the human slowed his pace so she could keep up. Hours passed, the fields turned to forests. The air grew cooler. She watched him from behind. His shoulders broad, his back straight. He carried no whip, no chain, only the bag across his shoulder. In her heart, questions grew. Why take me? Why not leave me? Why walk so far for me? She wanted to ask, but her lips would not move. At midday, they stopped near a stream. The human knelt, filled his flask with water, and handed it to her. She drank, then washed her face in the clear stream. The cold water stung, but it felt good. For the first time in years, she saw her reflection. A thin face, hollow eyes, but still alive. The human sat on a rock, quiet. He took a small loaf from his bag, broke it in half, and gave her the larger piece. She stared at it, her throat tightened. No one had ever given her more. She wanted to refuse. But hunger won. She ate slowly, her eyes fixed on him. After the meal, they walked again. The road stretched endless. Her feet ached. She stumbled more than once. Each time the human reached out, steadying her with his strong hand. He never scolded, never sighed. He only helped her back on her feet. As the sun began to set, colors painted the sky red and gold. They stopped near a small hill. The human set down his bag and started a fire with dry wood. The girl sat near it, warming her hands. The flames danced in her wide eyes. She had never been allowed to sit at a fire, only to serve it from afar. The human pulled out a blanket and placed it on the ground. He gestured. Sleep. Her heart beat fast. Sleep? Here, outside? She feared he might change suddenly, but exhaustion pulled her down. She curled up under the blanket. Her eyes still on him, he sat by the fire, sharpening a small knife, his face serious but not cruel. She fought sleep, afraid something would happen. Finally her eyes closed. She dreamed of the market again, of laughter and dirt, but in the dream, someone stepped forward, a shadow that covered her with a coat. For the first time, the dream did not end with chains. It ended with warmth. The night passed. In the morning, they walked again. Mountains rose in the distance. The girl's strength grew little by little. She still feared him, still wondered, what does he want from me? But a part of her heart whispered, maybe nothing, maybe only kindness. When the sun stood high, they finally reached a valley. In the center stood a small wooden house, smoke curling from its chimney. The girl stopped. Her mouth opened in surprise. This is his home? The human looked at her, his voice calm. Here. Her chest tightened. She did not understand. Why bring her here? Why share his place with her? She wanted to run, to hide, to scream, but her legs did not move. The human walked to the door. He opened it and stepped inside. He looked back at her, waiting. His eyes said more than his words. You are safe here. Her body shook as she stepped forward. Her bare feet touched the wooden floor. For the first time in her life, she entered a place that smelled not of chains, but of home, and as the door closed softly behind her, The long walk of fear began to change into the first steps of something new. The little alien girl stood frozen at the doorway. Her eyes moved slowly across the room. The house was small, but every corner felt strange to her. Strange because it was clean, warm, and alive. She saw wooden shelves filled with tools, a table with 2 chairs, a soft rug near the fire. It was not a palace, not even a rich home. But to her, it was something she had never known, a place without chains. The human closed the door gently behind her. He placed his bag on the table and set his boots aside. He did not shout, did not order her to move. Instead, he said one simple word, "Sit," and pointed to the chair. Her body stiffened. She thought of the cages, where sitting had meant punishment. But his voice was calm, not sharp. Slowly, she stepped forward and sat on the edge of the chair, ready to jump if he changed his tone. The human moved around the house, lighting a small lamp, adding wood to the fire. Preparing the room for night, she watched every move, expecting some hidden cruelty, but all she saw was a man in his home. Finally, he brought her another bowl of food. Warm and steaming, he placed it on the table. "Eat," he said. She stared at it. Her hands shaking, she whispered, Why do you give me this?" He looked at her for a moment, his eyes steady. "Because you are hungry." Her lips trembled. The answer was too simple, too impossible. But she lifted the bowl and ate, slowly at first, then faster. Her stomach ached with each swallow. But she could not stop when it was empty. She placed it down carefully, afraid he might take it back. Instead, he nodded once as if satisfied. Then he stood and walked to a small door at the side. He opened it and pointed room. The girl followed. Her eyes widened. It was not big, just a narrow space with a small bed, a blanket neatly folded on top. The window let in the silver light of the moon. She stared in disbelief. A bed. For me? Her throat tightened. She turned to him. I sleep here?" "Yes," he answered. His voice carried no doubt. Her knees grew weak. She touched the blanket with shaking fingers. The cloth was soft against her skin. She had only known cold floors and chains. Now this felt unreal. The human stepped back. "Rest," he said. Then he left her alone and closed the door. The girl stood there silent. The room was too quiet, too safe. She feared it was another trick. She sat on the bed slowly, her body tense. She lay down, pulling the blanket over herself. The softness surrounded her. It was warm, not from fire, but from care. Tears slid down her face for the first time in years. She cried not from pain, but from confusion. Her heart whispered, "Why me? Why kindness?" But sleep took her before she could answer. Morning came. The girl woke to the smell of bread baking. She sat up, her body still surprised by comfort. She touched the blanket again just to be sure it was real. When she stepped out of the room, she found the human already at the table. Cutting bread, he nodded at her. "Sit." She sat quietly. He gave her food again. And again he took less for himself. She wanted to ask more questions, but fear held her back. After breakfast, he handed her a cloth dress, simple but clean. "Wear," he said. She stared at it, her eyes wide. She had not worn clothes since she was very small. The traders had stripped her long ago, leaving only shame now. This cloth felt heavier than chains because it meant dignity. She went back to the room, put it on, and looked in the small mirror by the window. For the first time, she did not see dirt and nothingness. She saw herself, still thin, still weak, but covered. Not humiliated when she stepped back. The human gave a small nod. He did not comment, did not laugh, only moved on to his work. Days passed, slowly. The girl learned the rhythm of the house. The human worked in the fields outside. He cut wood, fixed tools, hunted for food. She tried to help, though she was clumsy. She dropped dishes, spilled water, stumbled while carrying wood. Each time she waited for his anger, but it never came. Instead, he showed her again, patient and steady. "Like this," he would say, guiding her hands, his voice never sharp. Always calm at night. They sat near the fire. He read strange books, while she watched the flames sometimes. He taught her words in his language, pointing to objects, repeating until she understood. She whispered them back, shy but eager. One night, she finally asked the question burning inside her. "Why did you choose me?" The human looked at her, his face serious. "Because no one else would." Her heart shook. That answer broke something inside her, the wall she had built around her pain. She lowered her head. Hiding her tears for the first time, she felt something she had never known. Belonging, the house became her safe place. A place called home, not a cage, not a market. Not a prison, but a home, yet deep inside. She knew safety was fragile. The world outside still remembered her as trash, and whispers from the market would not stay silent forever. But tonight, as the fire warmed her face and the blanket wrapped her body, she closed her eyes with a new thought. Maybe I am more than shame. The days turned into weeks, and the girl slowly began to change. At first, she was silent like a shadow in the house. She moved carefully, as if every step might break the fragile peace. She spoke little, ate little, and always kept her eyes low. But the human did not push her. He gave her time. He gave her space. One morning she tried to sweep the floor. Her hands were weak and the broom was heavy. She stumbled and knocked over a jar. The clay shattered across the wooden boards. She froze, terror filling her chest. Her heart raced. Now he will punish me, she thought. She dropped to her knees, whispering, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry," her hands shaking as she picked up the sharp pieces. But the human walked over, knelt beside her, and gently moved her hands away from the shards. "Stop," he said softly. "You will cut yourself." Then, without anger, he cleaned the mess himself. She stared at him, confused. Waiting for the strike that never came, her world tilted. The rules she knew, pain for mistakes. Cruelty for weakness did not work here. Mistakes were met with patience. Her heart did not know what to do with that. Every evening the human sat with his books. The fire crackled between them. Sometimes, he pointed to a word and spoke it slowly. "Bread," he would say, showing her a piece of bread. She repeated it, her tongue clumsy. "Bread," he nodded, a faint smile on his lips. Another night he pointed at the door. "Home," she whispered. "Home." The word tasted strange, heavy, but also warm. She said it again, softer this time. "Home." For the first time the girl felt her chest loosen. She was not in a cage anymore, she was in a home. Her voice grew stronger day by day. She began to ask small questions. Why? What? How? The human answered simply, with patience. She learned to name the tools, the food, even the stars above. One day he took her outside. The fields stretched far, the air was fresh. The girl blinked against the sun. She had not walked freely under open skies in so long. Her steps were slow at first, but soon she felt the grass under her bare feet, the breeze against her face. The human handed her a small basket. "Help," he said, pointing to berries on the bushes. She picked them carefully. One by one, at first her fingers trembled, afraid of doing it wrong, but when she dropped a berry, the human only chuckled softly. "Try again," he said. No anger, no punishment. Only patience that day, she smiled. Just a little. But real. At night, nightmares still came. She dreamed of the market, of chains, of laughter and dirt. Sometimes she woke with a cry, her body shaking. In those moments, the human was always there. He did not touch her without permission. He only said calmly, "You are safe," until she could breathe again. His voice was stronger than the ghosts in her dreams. Slowly, she began to believe it. The girl also started to help more in the house. She learned to cook simple meals, to mend small tears in cloth. Her hands grew steadier, her body stronger when she made mistakes. She braced for anger, but instead the human would guide her. "Like this," he'd say, moving her hands gently. She began to trust those words, "like this," as if he was building her piece by piece. One evening as they sat by the fire, she whispered, "Why me?" "You could buy stronger, better." The human looked at her, his eyes deep, his voice calm. "Because you were left behind." Her throat tightened. She turned her face away, hiding the tears. She had been abandoned, shamed, unwanted by all. But to him, that was the reason to choose her. Not to reject her. The healing was not quick. It was slow, fragile, but real. One afternoon, while washing dishes, she began to hum softly. The sound surprised her. She had not heard her own song in years. The human looked up from his work and listened. He did not interrupt, he only nodded slightly, as if telling her it was good. Her cheeks warmed, and for the first time, she allowed herself to hum louder. Another day, she laughed. It was small, almost hidden. She slipped while carrying wood and fell onto the soft grass. Instead of fear, a laugh escaped her lips. The sound echoed across the quiet valley. The human turned and saw her for a moment. His face softened in a way she had never seen. She quickly covered her mouth, ashamed, but he said, "Good," just that, and went back to work. Her heart fluttered. good. That one word meant more than any treasure, but not all was safe. Sometimes she noticed him watching the horizon, his eyes sharp as if expecting something. He did not speak of it, but she felt it. The outside world was still there. The market, the traders, the cruelty, they were not gone. They whispered like shadows around the edges of her peace. Yet here, inside the small house, she was learning a new truth. She was more than chains, more than shame. She was someone who could smile, laugh, learn. She was someone who could be cared for. The healing had begun, and though she did not know it, the whispers from the market would soon return, testing everything she had gained. The valley was quiet, the days simple, but outside the hills, rumors began to spread. The alien market, where shame and cruelty ruled, had not forgotten what had happened. A human had walked in, lifted what they called trash, and carried her away. That act had insulted the traders. Their pride was hurt. Their whispers started as laughter, but slowly turned into anger. Humans think they are above our rules, one trader spat. He dares to take what even we would not touch? He shamed us, another growled. If word spreads, buyers will ask why they should trust our market. If a worthless one can be turned into value, our prices mean nothing. The story spread like fire through nearby towns. Some laughed at the foolish human. Some were curious, others were secretly unsettled. For if even trash could be chosen, then their world of power and price was weaker than they believed. Meanwhile, in the valley, the girl continued to heal. She had grown stronger, her face no longer hollow. Her voice no longer trembling. She helped in the fields, carried baskets, cooked food. She even spoke small sentences now. Her favorite word remained home, which she whispered to herself at night, as if to remind her it was real. But sometimes, when she looked at the human, she noticed his eyes on the horizon. His jaw set, his body alert. He said nothing, but she could feel the weight in the silence. She knew the world outside was stirring. One evening, as they ate by the fire, the human finally spoke. "They will come." The girl froze. "Who?" "The market," he said simply. "Traders do not forget shame." Her chest tightened. She thought of the laughter, the dirt, the kicks and insults. She remembered the way they had called her worthless. Her hands shook. They want me back?" The human looked at her, his voice steady. "They want their pride back." She lowered her head, fear creeping into her heart again. For weeks she had built fragile walls of peace, and now those walls trembled. Days later, the first sign appeared. A stranger passed through the valley pretending to be a traveler. He asked too many questions. "Is there a human here? With a girl? Small, thin, once in the market?" The neighbors did not answer, but whispers carried back to the human. He knew the scouts were searching. That night the girl could not sleep. She sat by the fire, hugging her knees. Her voice broke. "They will take me again." The human turned his gaze to her, his tone calm but firm. "Not while I breathe." Her heart shook at those words. She wanted to believe them, but fear was louder. The whispers grew louder in the towns. Some said the girl was cursed. Some said she was dangerous. Others said the human was using strange magic. Why else would he choose her? Curiosity pulled more eyes toward the valley. Traders gathered, plotting. "We cannot allow this insult to stand," one said. "We will bring her back. Show the crowd she is nothing." "Yes," another agreed. "And we will remind everyone no one escapes the market." The girl noticed the change in the human. He sharpened his tools more often, checked the doors at night. His silence was heavier. She asked once, "You regret taking me?" He shook his head without hesitation. "Never." She stared at him, her throat tight. She whispered, "But if they come, you will suffer." He leaned forward, his eyes strong. "Some things are worth suffering for." Those words cut deep into her heart, breaking chains she thought would never fall. One afternoon, while she was in the field, she heard laughter from the road. A group of travelers stopped and pointed. "That's her," one whispered loudly. "The shame of the market. Dressed like a person now," they laughed, cruel and sharp. The girl froze, her body stiff with old memories. The human appeared behind her, his voice hard. "Keep walking." The travelers looked at him, their laughter fading under his steady gaze. They left quickly, but the girl still trembled long after. That night she sat near the fire, tears in her eyes. "They will never stop," she whispered. "I will always be shame." The human shook his head. "You are not what they say." She wanted to argue, but his voice carried truth. Stronger than her doubts, for the first time, she let herself believe that maybe Just maybe she was more, but in the town, the traders gathered with purpose. They were tired of whispers. They wanted control again. Tomorrow, one declared, we go to the valley, we take her back. We show all who is master. And as the night deepened in the valley, the human sat awake by the fire, sharpening his blade, watching the door, his eyes calm but ready. The girl slept in her small bed, unaware that her fragile peace was about to be tested. The whispers of the market were no longer whispers. They had become footsteps marching closer. The morning came heavy and strange, clouds rolled across the sky, covering the valley in gray. The girl woke to silence. The human was already outside, standing at the edge of the field. His back straight, his eyes sharp, she knew. Without asking that today was the day, her stomach twisted. Fear returned like an old wound. She stepped out and whispered, "They are coming, aren't they?" He looked at her once, nodded, and said only, yes. Her knees grew weak. She wanted to run, to hide, but there was nowhere to go. The valley had become her home, and she could not leave it. Not now, not ever. By midday, the sound of boots and voices echoed through the hills. A group of traders marched into the valley, armed with sticks, whips, and cruel smiles. Behind them followed curious townsfolk, eager to watch the scene. Some wanted blood, some wanted proof. Others just wanted to see shame return to its cage. There, one trader shouted, pointing at the girl, "The worthless one!" The shame of the market. The girl froze, her body trembling. Old memories clawed at her mind. She remembered dirt, laughter, and the sharp pain of being kicked. Her chest tightened. She whispered, "They will take me." But the human stepped forward, placing himself between her and the crowd. His voice was calm but strong. "She is not yours." The traders laughed, harsh and loud. "Not ours?" "She was left in the market." "She is property, trash, nothing. Hand her back, human, before you regret this." The human's hand rested on the knife at his belt. His voice did not waver. "She is not property. She is not trash. She is family." Gasps spread through the crowd. Family? No one had ever spoken such a word for someone like her. The traders sneered. "Family? With this? She is shame itself. You insult us all by keeping her." The human took one step forward. His eyes burned. "The insult is yours. You left her to die. I chose her to live." For a moment, silence fell. The crowd shifted uneasily. Some whispered, some frowned. The lead trader growled, "Enough talk. We will take her by force." He raised his whip and stepped closer. The girl's breath caught. Her heart screamed. She wanted to hide. But then she saw the human standing tall, unshaken, his body a wall between her and the world. Something stirred inside her chest, something stronger than fear. She stepped forward, her voice shaking but loud enough to be heard. "I will not go back." The crowd turned. Stunned, the traders froze. The girl's small body trembled, but her eyes held fire. "You called me worthless. You called me shame, but here, I learned a new word." She turned slightly, her eyes finding the human. "Home?" Her voice cracked, but the word echoed, stronger than the trader's laughter. The human looked at her, pride flickering in his calm eyes. The traders snarled, trying to laugh again, but their voices wavered. The crowd behind them began to whisper differently now. Not mocking, but uncertain. Could it be true? Could even trash have worth if a human said so? The lead trader swung his whip forward, but the human caught it midair. His knife flashed, and the leather snapped in two. Gasps erupted. The man's hand shook. He stepped back, fear creeping into his anger. The human's voice cut through the valley, deep and final. "She is mine to protect, not yours to harm if you want her. You will have to fight me." No one moved. The traders looked at one another, their courage drained by his steady eyes, by the knife in his hand, and by the fire in the girl's voice. Slowly, one by one, they lowered their weapons. Their anger collapsed under the weight of something stronger. Truth. The truth that their market had no power here. Not in this valley, not against this human. The crowd began to leave, murmuring. Some still scoffed, but many looked shaken. The traders muttered curses, but they too turned back, defeated. When the valley was silent again, the girl collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down her face. I spoke," she whispered. "I told them no." The human knelt beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "And you were stronger than them all." She looked up at him, her heart overflowing with feelings she could not name. For the first time, she believed fully. She was no longer shame, no longer trash. She was someone someone who belonged. That night, the fire glowed warm inside the house. The girl sat near it, wrapped in the blanket he had given her long ago. She whispered the word softly again and again. Home. 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 The human sat across from her, quiet but content. The valley outside was silent. The traders were gone, the chains were broken, and though the world might still whisper, here in this house, in this valley, she was no longer abandoned, she was no longer unwanted. She was no longer the shame of the market, she was family.